Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to a surprise edition of the Missing Lynx post-game live stream podcast thing. The actual namesake of the Wolves podcast that, not always do you start with the Lynx podcast and then come out with a Wolves one, but it's the time we live in now. I'm your host, Andrew Dukowitz from Zone Coverage, and we got Mitchell Hansen, the founder, the proprietor of this delicatessen. Cleveland joke for anyone that was watching Family Guy in the early 2000s. But how's it going, man?
I'm doing well. We're still kind of in that standstill, but we're getting ready for things hopefully to start picking up here in the WNBA offseason. But everything's going well. I've been enjoying some NBA action too. I've been enjoying watching the Wolves, enjoying your coverage as well. So it's been nice to kind of unplug and follow that stuff and kind of get ready for hopefully things coming up here in 2026. But happy to be here and happy to join you as always.
Yeah, and for people that are tuning into the Missing Lynx side of this that haven't been following the Wolves coverage, I've been kind of starting off every pod just saying it is not lost on me everything that's going in Minneapolis and and Minnesota. I live in Mounds View. They're the same unrest is going on here that is downtown and everywhere else. But how I can kind of affect this is to provide a distraction for people. And that's kind of what I'm hoping to do with this podcast. By all means, though, I don't want to sit here and just play coy to everything going on. Mitch, I did want to give you space, though. Any comments you want to have, anything you want to get off your chest on just kind of the situation going on?
Yeah, I just kind of want to echo what you said. Obviously, we're talking sports and acting like there's not much going on elsewhere, but it is kind of the avenue to kind of get people, I don't want to say distracted, but to give you something more positive to think about and kind of maybe get away from that side of things or kind of escape, because everybody needs that escape. I kind of view it, I'm not trying to compare the two situations, they're very different, but I view it similar to like COVID when we had the shutdown of sports. Sports are a way of uniting people. It's a way of people bonding. Everybody follows or is a fan of some sports team. So it's just kind of, it's a way of uniting people and hopefully that can kind of bleed into other aspects of life. But I just want to say, I hope everybody is safe. Obviously everybody, that's first and foremost is the safety of everybody and just kind of we'll get through this, but at the same time, I know it's tough on a lot of people. So we're not overlooking that. We're not overshadowing that. We're not trying to mask it with sports talk, but we hope this kind of gives you a little bit of an escape to get your mind off of things if we can. So
absolutely. I mean, we're doing what we can with what we can do. And unfortunately, both of us have microphones, so you get to listen to both of us talk. And hopefully that gives you a little bit of an escape from the Twitter feed and reality and everything that else is going on in the world. But we do. I'm not going to say we have news to talk about because nothing has really happened in the WNBA. Yeah. But the WNBA came out with the WNBA Players Association came out with kind of a series of posts on Instagram, social medias, just kind of setting the stage of this is what we're talking about. They have one on the 9.3% revenue sharing, the different issues that are going on. I mean, Mitch, just from your perspective, what's kind of your take on the current standstill between the powers to be and the Players Association?
Yeah, I think they're really in no closer spot than what they've been in the last couple months. It seems like from everything we've heard from the player side, because that's really the most vocal side at this point. You even compare the two statements from the WNBA Players Association and the WNBA when they surpassed that January 9th extension, whatever you want to call it, the fourth extension. When they surpassed that deadline, the WNBA Players Association, they're being more vocal and understandably so. They're trying to, it's all leverage in a negotiation, but they're being very vocal about how far apart they are, and I think that's still the reality of where we're at, unfortunately. And the longer it keeps going, we're almost to February now, and that's usually February is the time where we're deep into free agency talk, and until then we we can't talk about anything because there is nothing that can happen. But the longer it continues to get pushed off, the more and more likely that we're going to have a condensed season, or maybe not a season at all if talks don't progress. But it's unfortunate that it's getting to this point where it seems like they haven't been able to find any common ground. And when you're in a negotiation for what it's been 6+ months now, or whatever it is, they've been in heavy talks for about 4 months now, but they've been negotiating this or talking about this for months, and to not find any common ground is unfortunate. And that, to me, it speaks that they're both very far apart yet. And that's gonna hurt both sides. That'll hurt the players. It'll hurt the WNBA more than the players, but that'll hurt everybody involved. And hopefully they can sit down and get stuff figured out. But it's tough. I mean, the other thing is it's tough because I try to have answers for things and I don't have answers for this. I don't know where things are, what's going on. I don't know what the status of it is. And that's a hard thing too, because the fans feel the same way. They want to know when the games are going to start, if they're going to start at all, what their teams are going to look like. And unfortunately, we can't do that yet because there's nothing close with a CBA agreement. So it's unfortunate that we're still talking about it, but that's the reality of where we're at.
Well, and you touched on like the uncertainty of it. I think that's the part that is for me like the most difficult, of like, we don't even know who's going to be on the roster. Like,
right.
we don't, other than Dorka and Ola, and that's it, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's not even like speculation that you can make, because I don't think anyone really knows what's going to happen with even a player like Nafisa Collier, who I think everyone kind of assumes is back, but
Mm-hmm.
like dual ankle surgery and who knows. So I think it's a really difficult spot to cover the league in. But again, that's why I wanted to at least get something out of just like, let's just acknowledge the reality.
Right.
I did want to get your take on just, Rebecca Lobo kind of came out of the woodwork with like not like a sweet chin music type of like finisher, but, a statement just basically saying she thinks the players are losing fan support over the negotiations. I mean, what's your take on that? Because to me, it sounded pretty out of touch.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it maybe halting the trajectory of growth, just because we don't have anything to really talk about, and that's the tough part. You obviously want to take advantage of that momentum that's been built, and I think once the games begin, that'll return back to normal. But I don't agree with that, just for the fact that I think the WNBA is losing fan support, not the players. And I think that's what most fans are looking at it right now, is the WNBA is, I don't want to say at fault, but a lot of fans are kind of blaming the WNBA for where we're at right now. And I would say that it's maybe the other side of things. I get where Rebecca Lobo's coming from. I think more so if, when it comes to her comments, I could see it being more of a like, okay, players, maybe we have to compromise a little bit here. Maybe we're shooting a little too high. But at the same time, credit to the players, because they have all the leverage right now. And they should be shooting for the moon if they can get it. And, if whatever, they should be shooting as high as they possibly can. But I would say if anything, the WNBA is losing a little bit of, fandom, and that in return could impact the players. I mean, that impacts just the league and the fans of the league, which in return impacts the players because they're a part of the league. But I think when you see stuff like Unrivaled and you see the other endorsements that players are involved in or have, like, they have fans. The fandom I don't think is being impacted. Now, if there's no season, then that's maybe another story, and then that could impact things, because then they're not in the limelight. They're not getting that exposure that they normally would. So I don't fully agree with it. I agree with parts of what she said, but I don't think we're to that point yet, and I think we have a little ways to go before anything like that would be impacted. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. I think the WNBA is burning all of its good grace with the fans right now. I mean, Not that Kathy and the leadership had a ton of it, but whatever's left. I mean, it doesn't look like the players are asking too much. I mean,
Right.
the stuff that they've been putting out there is like a 30% revenue share, which is halfway between where they are now and where the NBA is. Like that
Mm-hmm.
kind of sounds appropriate. Like they want more uniformed housing, which makes sense. Again,
Mm-hmm.
like if housing is going to be provided, it should probably be similar across all cities. You know, uniform training, roster expansion, like everything they're saying, I think it hits a tenor with fans of like, yeah, it is kind of crappy that, you know, the Sparks had to play a game last year where they didn't even have the name on a jersey for
Yep.
one of the players that got signed because they only have 11 players on roster and injuries happen. So I don't think they're losing it with, I don't think this is like damaging the players' goodwill. I will say there's a little bit more like fee kind of hate online, which I
Yeah.
always think is interesting because fee is like a significantly better human being than I am, just being realistic. Like, I think that's a weird angle for fans to take of like, you know, whether it's the, oh, she wants Unrivaled to succeed. Like, if she wanted Unrivaled to succeed, she would have got through ankle injuries and then
Right.
gotten surgery before the WNBA season. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that is much of it. But like to your point, I do think if they get to a point where they're missing a season, then it's going to get toxic for everyone involved because
Yeah.
then it's, you know, the players, how are you letting this happen? How are you guys not like taking a deal? And for the league, it's like you are mismanaging potentially like the biggest opportunity for growth.
Mm-hmm.
Because like this summer, 2026, if they build off of 2025, then going into 2027, baseball might be on strike, which then you're it for an
Mm-hmm.
entire summer. Like you can't miss one of these opportunities by just having a year and a half long lockout. I think the other thing that's been interesting that's been kind of in the news that I wanted to at least get your take on was just the league seems to be trying to buy back
Yeah.
certain shareholders. I mean, what's your take on that? Again, it just seems like bad optics when you're in the middle of a CBA trying to buy back shares.
Right. I don't understand that because I really don't understand it on both sides, whether that being the WNBA side and the shareholders. Like, why would the shareholders want to sell that back, especially with where they're at? That's something you do before the 2025 season, or maybe something you do in like 2 years,
Mhm.
but not something you do right now, I don't think. And also from the WNBA side, you know, they would lose a lot of money. And if you're negotiating a CBA that you would ultimately end up losing money because you're going to be compensating players more, you're going to have more revenue share, whatever it may be. It just doesn't seem like it's the right time. And so I don't really understand that side of things. And I don't know if the WNBA does that and then they use that as a negotiation play, like, hey, we don't have any more money. Sorry. So I don't know if that's part of it, but I don't, it's, yeah, the timing is just very strange to me. And I don't know if that's, if that's legit, if that, you know, if that's just, you know, kind of a ploy in the negotiation. I have no idea. Who knows if there's a bunch of tactics they use to try and get the upper hand in negotiations, but I don't really understand that at all. But the going back to a little bit to the CBA stuff, the WNBA for years has talked about how they want to be like the NBA. They want
Yeah.
to be considered like the NBA and legit, I don't want to say they're not a legit sports league because they are, but you know,
But
to
like
the level of the
difference
NBA.
between there's a difference between kind of the big 3 right now or
Yeah,
the big 4, I guess, of like NFL, NBA, MLB, and NHL in some
yeah,
order. And then the step down. Like they want to be in that conversation. They
right.
want to overtake baseball.
Yeah, I agree. And in order to do that is you have to kind of suck it up and you got to take a hit like this to be able to you have to take a step back to make 2 steps forward sometimes.
Mhm.
And I think that that's a pill that's very hard to swallow for the WNBA right now, especially with the expansion teams coming in. I think that plays a big factor in it too. But I mean, you gotta at a certain point you gotta take a hit to be able to kind of get this thing to continue to grow. And I think that's the reality of where we're at right now is the WNBA just needs to realize that, hey, we got to take a hit maybe here to grow this thing in, for the next 10 years and beyond. But That's something they're not willing to do right now, clearly, and that's something the players are standing very strong on, which is, like I said earlier, it's credit to them. I would do the exact same thing if I was in their spot, and stand strong, and they have all the leverage. So I just think the WNBA needs to come to that realization, like, hey, if we want to be legit, be considered in one of the top 5, let's say, sports leagues, or the big 5. If we want to get into that conversation, if we want to be among the big 4, then we need to treat our players like other leagues do. Maybe not to that extent. No WNBA player is asking for the level of salary that NBA players are getting. Would they take it? Absolutely. I would take a third of what any NBA player makes. I would take a third of what any WNBA player makes. But
honestly,
I do think that they just want fair compensation, and that's something they're not getting, and that's something that every other league does, and that's not fair. I mean, that is in no way fair, and the WNBA needs to come to that realization and just kind of suck it up and kind of take that hit. So that's kind of where I view things.
The fairness of it, I feel like, and part of this is, like, I live in the world of public perception, where, like, that's kind of what I think about a lot, is like, how are people going to perceive certain things, like how to message things. Like, that's just, even in my day job as a nurse, like, I remember one of my college professors said that being a nurse is mastering the art of productive manipulation. You got to get somebody to test their blood sugar, even though they don't want to do it. Like, that's kind of the world I live in, is like, what could these people do to make public opinion sway? And it just seems like everything the WNBA does, like, alienates their fans and alienates the play. I mean, when they're putting out, like, we're going to give them $1 million salaries, and it's like, so you're going to get a 6 times increase in media revenue and double their salaries. Like, it's not hard math. It's
right.
We're going to give players the private jets, not private jets. I can't remember what the actual name
charter
is.
Flights.
We're going to give them the charter flights. But then when we release the information on the season, we're going to use the money that we spent on charter flights as part of the reason that we had the worst season, like, financially. And it's like, well, like, people can see through that. So that was the first thing that came to my mind when they were talking about buying shareholders, was just like, people are going to see right through this and see that it's another kind of bad faith. On the player side, they get less of a revenue share than MLS players get. Like, I went back and looked at the NBA in the 70s. They were about 20 years into their like legacy. They were getting 40% revenue shares, and the league was on tape delay. Like, you're 100% right that at some point the league does need to, like, give on this issue so that they can continue to grow and just take the chance. But yeah, I don't know though, because it's hard to say it's like an owner's issue, even though Kathy is kind of, commissioner, works for the owners. But you got to figure most of these owners are probably just like, what's an extra $6 million in payroll at this point?
Right. Yeah. And I think I agree with that. I think the owners are kind of, I don't want to say on the side of the players, but they're okay with the increase, and it's just a matter of the WNBA kind of negotiating the deal to make that happen. And I just don't understand how they're not even remotely close to any sort of deal. And we're getting to a point too, and I know I've mentioned this in a recent pod too, that we're getting to a point where we might be impacting those TV deals. We might be impacting those partnerships with the league. A lot of companies, a lot of businesses, a lot of broadcasts, networks, whatever, they need that money. They need this game. They need these games on TV to make the money. And if there's no season, you wonder if there's some opt-out clauses in their deals or their contracts where the network or the partner can back out of it. Obviously, the WNBA would be taking a hit for that. So you got to start to think about all that too as we get closer to the season, that this is far beyond just games not happening. This is a lot of money that's on the line for the WNBA and for the players. And obviously, well, if there is no WNBA season or a shortened season, I don't really think the players are impacted at all. They're still going to get their endorsements.
I don't think
still
so
going to be visible. Maybe they'll extend the Unrivaled season. Who knows? I have no idea. But the players will be fine. It's the
Australia
WNBA
is nice, I hear.
Yeah. And
Like,
that's the other thing too, is players will probably go overseas. And then let's say players end up going overseas and then a CBA deal is negotiated. Well, now you have to wait maybe, a month to be able to get the season started because you got to get training camp going. You got to get players back from overseas. And
signing players.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's
And
such a
that's the
mess.
other thing. We still need that 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever it is for free agency period and an expansion draft. And we have the, obviously the actual WNBA draft, and then you have training camp. And so it's that every day that we delay this, it's getting pushed back another day. So it's time to figure this out. And if as we get closer to even February, like I said, I don't know, every time we flip over to a new month, it's going to, the pressure is going to continue to increase. And right now we're almost to, we're 2 weeks beyond the, the deadline that was set. And we have not heard a single thing about it being any closer.
Yeah.
And to me, that's very worrisome because the deadline's gone. We're 2 weeks beyond that. You had your eyes on that deadline for a month plus, and we couldn't get any closer. And now we're even beyond that. So it's very worrisome. I'm much more worried now than I was even a month ago on where things are.
I still think they'll get it done. Like, I'll keep my opinion consistent of, like, I still think when push comes to shove, there are too many outside investors. There's too many TV contracts, like you were mentioning. There's the NBA side of it and owners side of it, that there are too many people that are going to lose a ton of money if they don't get this thing done. And, like, in the grand scheme of things, like, if Jeff Bezos is going to lose money on Amazon because the WNBA isn't pushing the product out there, I don't think what Jeff Bezos cares what, like, WNBA owners and Kathy are, like, negotiating for. Like, I do think there's just enough massive amounts of money involved in this that it'll get done. But to your point, like, it's January 18th time of recording. Like, we should be talking about free agency right now. Like, the WNBA, this is like the prime time for, like, WNBA to start their free agency. I mean, football is still football. Everyone's going to talk about that, but the NBA is kind of in that mid-July slog. College football is going to be done in a couple days. Hockey is still, even though here in Minnesota, it's a big deal, but, like, nationally, it's still not a massive thing. Like, if you had every player in the league signing, and WNBA would be getting headlines, but they're just missing it. I mean, what's your thoughts on, like, let's say they get a deal done. What do you feel like the rest of this offseason is going to, like, look like? I mean, obviously it's going to be sped up. But what are kind of your thoughts?
Well, I mean, you're going to have to, because free agency normally starts February 1, or at least in February, or like that negotiating period starts February 1. Let's say it's even, let's fast forward a month from now. Let's say they agree to a deal mid-February. Well, you're probably going to have to at least give teams a week to be able to start, extending offers, or we still have to get to the qualifying offer portion, which is about a week long. And then after that, you have, the essentially free agency starting, the negotiating period that's 2 weeks long, whatever. And then you can start signing players. Well, if that all happens, that's, let's say 3-4 weeks, you're already in early March. And then, the draft is supposed to happen in April, which I don't know if that's going to have to end up getting pushed back. Like, it's going to, maybe push everything back a month. And that's saying if we agreed to a deal in mid-February. That's, we could very well get through February and there's no CBA deal. If that's the case, then we're talking for sure about a shortened season, because there's a lot to figure out yet. And then you think about too, let's say we get through all of that offseason stuff. We get through the free agency expansion and, the WNBA draft, all of that stuff. Training camp takes, 2-3 weeks to complete. So you can't really shorten those things up either. That's the other thing, is like you can't shorten that timeline. And sure, you could maybe condense free agency a little bit, but everything else you need to give its proper time to be able to unfold, and there's no speeding that process up. So I think, if best case scenario, they agree to a deal in February, and then maybe things are shortened like a couple weeks. But the longer that goes, the farther out, it will push things back to condensing the season essentially.
I mean, there's also the real life like parts of it too, of like season ticket holders aren't going to know when games are going to get played until later. Like it's difficult enough scheduling a season out when you have NBA playoffs at the beginning of it, concerts, all of those things. Some of these teams share practice facilities with colleges. I mean, it's beginning to be that part where it's just going to be a logistical nightmare. I mean, I kind of fear if they do, like if this does drag into late February, it's going to be it's probably going to turn into like a sloppily done thrown together thing because it's just timing of it. And then two, I mean, are you seeing more injuries because players aren't as prepared? Are you seeing more of these weird things where the Valkyries are playing in San Jose because, they can't play in their home arena? Like, also like the Toronto of it all, of everybody's going to need a visa now, or everybody's going to need a passport now. Like there's just a lot more of these really weird parts of it. I mean, it's getting a little dire is my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. And if you look at the back end of things too, that being the playoffs, a lot of people might say like, hey, let's just, expand the season longer, keep the same length, but then just push the season back. Well, for one, we have now a best of 7 WNBA finals, so that extended things a little bit already. But two, what happens at the end of the year every year? What happens in the playoffs? What happens in the finals is we have conflicts between WNBA and NBA arenas. So we can't push the season back because that's when the NBA is ramping stuff up, or there's other events at those arenas. We see conflicts with that all the time when it comes to the WNBA. That's only going to excel if you push the season back, let's say, another month or something, or if you extend the playoffs a month and then keep the same length of the season. So the only logistical outcome, the only realistic outcome is shortening the regular season, keeping the playoffs at the same, the same length. And the other thing is too, with the broadcast partners, they have all of those dates on their calendars already. They know when the WNBA finals is supposed to start. They know what days potentially that they have with games, and they have their scheduling around that already. So you can't move that. You can't move the playoffs. And the only realistic outcome is shortening the season. I know we always talk about how, the WNBA season continues to grow. Well, this year we could see a 30-game regular season. Who knows? And that's I think what we're becoming closer and closer to, seeing. But yeah, and then to your point about season ticket holders, I never thought about that. Okay, so these season ticket holders are paying for a 44-game regular season, or they're paying 22 games with home games. What happens to that? Do the organizations or the franchises have to, give a discount on those season tickets? They're going to be losing money. The WNBA will be losing money. You're going to be limiting the amount of games that are on TV. You're going to be losing money that way. So there's a ton that goes into this that I think a lot of people kind of overlook. They just want the games to start and they want the season to be here, which I agree with. But there's a lot of money that is potentially, that could be lost with a condensed season, or heaven forbid, no season.
And that's why I still have hope it's going to get done, and we'll have as close to a full season as possible. It's just there's way too much money involved for people to not just be like, whatever. And I think that's the players. I can't speak for the players because I haven't talked to any of them since the season ended, because none of them know where they're employed. So I send a request to get someone on a podcast, and the answer is like, I don't know if they are signed here or not. So no, but like, if I was the players, that would be my hope too, is like, if we just hold out long enough, like, sure, public might turn on this a little bit, but like, the WNBA doesn't have any leverage, which I'm going to throw us over to a quick ad read. And then I do want to get into just a little bit of draft stuff, see if your opinions have changed at all since late December when we talked last. And then I know you're the overseas guru. So I have watched a grand total of 1 Jessica Shepard highlight tape. Other than that, I have not paid attention at all because I am in full NBA mode. But let's run some ads here first, and then we'll get to that. Well, hello. Thank you, Livestream Andrew. This is Ad Read Andrew. And today we have Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, the presenting sponsor for the Missing Links podcast. Firehawk Construction and Remodeling strives to inspire people to follow their ideas, working with respect and understanding to create a quality, tailored result. Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, located in Blaine and serving in the North Metro area, is here to help you with your building and remodeling needs. I can say personally, thanks to Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, I have a beautiful deck in my backyard and countless projects that I started, they finished. Get started on your new deck or remodel today by calling Isaac at 763-710-5686. And we're back with another ad read. This time for Pence Homes, the presenting sponsor of Hitting the Hardwood Network. From the best tools and technology to transparency throughout the entire process, Nate Pence and the Pence Homes team is the top choice for buyers, sellers, and is proud to support you and your home ownership goals. Get started today by calling 612-308-1122 or by emailing info@pencehomes.com. Couple housekeeping things just to clean up on the ad reads. Nate Pence is still collecting food or food money, dry canned foods or straight cash, homie, for food donations in the metro area. He's been helping people out that can't make it to get to grocery stores, that are afraid to leave their homes, that are trapped in their homes because of kind of the unrest and protests and other things going on in the city. If you do want to help out in that capacity, you can email info@natepence.com. Ask how to help, whether you want to drive to deliver or you want to make a donation, or you can find him on Instagram, Blue Sky, anywhere like that, and reach out. They have been putting out some promotional stuff to raise awareness as well. The other side of it, Isaac over at Firehawk Construction does have a new phone number. That number is 651-315-4291. Again, that new number is 651-315-4291. It is in the show notes here as well, but I just always shout out Firehawk Construction, especially this time of year when you don't know if a drain is going to burst or if your backyard hose is frozen. And then, one of these lovely 35-degree weather days comes along and your whole basement is flooded. Isaac does make house calls to help people through that, as well as those basement remodels after the fact. So just keep his number handy. It's never good to have too many people that know how to do plumbing, especially this time of year. Anyways, Mitchell, let's start with the draft.
Yeah.
Any changes since the last time we talked, or are you still kind of on the AZ train?
If I had to pick, I would still, if she's available at 2, I'd pick AZ Fudd. Olivia Miles is an intriguing pick too. I go back and forth with AZ Fudd and one of the two bigs, that being Awa Pham and Lauren Betts. I could see that benefiting the Lynx with, depending on what happens in free agency, who they might lose in free agency. Let's say Jess Shepard ends up leaving. Well, then you got a hole there that you could place one of those two players in. I could see that. The thing I like about AZ Fudd, if she's available, if she doesn't get picked number 1, but the thing I like about her is she to me is like a K-Mac that could just fill in for K-Mac after she retires. Yep. You could maybe ease the workload of K-Mac. You can slide AZ Fudd into that spot. I just think she fits nicely on this team. She'd fit nicely on any team, but that's why I keep going back to her. She obviously can shoot from deep. She can kind of impact every area of the floor. I really do like her. I haven't watched a ton of her film as far as this year yet, but she reminds me a lot of K-Mac in what she can do, just her body style and kind of her style of play. So if I had to choose, I would still pick her. Obviously, there's really no bad pick, I don't think, with where Minnesota's at. You kind of have to just let Dallas pick where they pick and see what's left after that. You're going to get a good player. You're going to get an impactful player. It's just a matter of what you want as far as position wise, style of play, all of that kind of stuff. I just think with how Minnesota plays, the kind of push the ball, push the, up tempo kind of 5-out style of play. I think that's where AZ Fudd would fit very nicely. I think if you get a big that maybe it wouldn't slow things down, but it would impact things a little bit. And let's say, Alana Smith wasn't on this team, I would say you have to get a big. So let's say Jess Shepard's the lone big, kind of starting big on this team, and you don't have Smith on the team or whatever. You have to go out and get a big, I think. And I don't think Minnesota needs to. You think, and the other aspect of it is Dorka Juhas is still floating out there, and she could potentially come back too. So the more I think about it, the more the more I kind of watch and read up on these players. I do think that AZ Fudd's a great fit. But I would be a fan right now, without knowing what's going to happen in free agency. I'd be a fan of them going with a wing or a guard, that being like AZ Fudd or Olivia Miles or something like that. But what do you think?
Yeah, I think AZ is like 1A giant drop in between AZ, and then my 2 is actually I'm glad you brought up Olivia Miles. Like, I think she's having a great season.
Mm-hmm.
I think she's like an experienced enough guard where I know one of my fears with drafting a point guard is like Cheryl doesn't seem like a great rookie point guard type of coach. Like, point guard does everything on this team, but like I think Miles is like a high enough basketball IQ player, plays really hard on defense, maybe not the best defender, but like doesn't seem like she's just like coasting out there a lot.
Right.
And her playmaking is just fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And that being said, if they go, Betts or Awa or someone instead of Fudd, like you gotta take AZ. Like that's K-Mac is kind of the clear, we need to figure out a replacement contingency plan with her. I also think like resting K-Mac a couple games in the season could really behoove her come playoff time. So she's a little more fresh. And like I feel pretty good that Lan is coming back next year. Like I do
too.
I don't really read into the like Lan is going to go to the Sparks. Like why?
Mm-hmm.
She's her whole career is turned around here playing next to Fee. You can just play next to Fee again and continue to be a really elite center. Just doesn't make sense. So I'm the same. I will say, like, watching Betts kind of up close at the Gophers game this last week, she's really good, man. Like, she had some foul trouble in the first half, so she wasn't really able to like impact the game as well as I think she normally could. But once that fourth quarter started, I mean, she's catching inbound passes with like one hand spin around hook shots. Like she's like a legit, I think she will translate really well to an NBA or a WNBA team. I just don't think that is going to be the Lynx. Like they'd have to switch their whole style,
Mm-hmm. I do think too, like, okay, so let's say, well, there's a couple aspects of this. One thing I'm really looking at is when we get to free agency, we got to get there first. But when we get to free agency, what kind of deals are Courtney Williams and or Natisha Heidemann signing? Like what length are those deals? If they're 1-year deals, if they're maybe even 2-year deals, then I could see maybe them going with Olivia Miles, even having Court and Olivia Miles play together at the same time. You have Olivia playing the point guard. You have Courtney playing back to her old position of off guard. I could see that a little bit. That all depends on what. Well, if Natisha Heidemann and Courtney Williams sign 4-year deals with the Lynx, 3-4-year deals, then it's more likely that they're not going to go with the guard because that kind of solidifies your guard room. And the other thing is too, it all depends on what kind of style that they want to play. And that's the question that the organization knows, but they need to be asking themselves this offseason: what do we want to continue what we're doing, or do we want to go back to, let's say, 2017 with Sylvia Fowles and kind of working inside out? If that's the case, you got to go one of those bigs, because then you can work with Alana Smith and this other big. You can even play them side by side. That would be intriguing just because, one of the weak spots for Minnesota last year against, let's say, Phoenix or Atlanta was those bigs really, really took it to Minnesota. So that would help in that area, obviously. But I mean, you got to start thinking about what's going to happen beyond K-Mac, because I love K-Mac. K-Mac's awesome. I hope she's here for another 15 years. That's not realistic, but I hope she is. But you got to start planning beyond her, because she's getting up there in age, and it seems to always just drop off really fast, and you don't want to get to a point where you drop off and you have nothing behind her. Yeah. So that's why I like the AZ Fudd thing. But let's say they go, AZ at number 2. You can still address the big, I don't want to say issue, but you can still address that position later on. You can address that in the second round if you really want to. If there's the talent there that you think would be impactful to have as a backup. But I could see them going a couple different routes, but I just keep going back to AZ Fudd that she's something she's a player that I really think would be great in Minnesota, and she could just pick up right away. We all know that Cheryl loves those UConn players, so let's keep that train rolling. But I saw the question in the chat too about an outside scorer. That is something too that Minnesota really needs. They need an outside scorer and a consistent outside scorer. Does Olivia Miles do that? To some extent, but as much as she can as a point guard. That's where I think an off-ball guard like an AZ Fudd would make a big difference in that area. And then you could still bring, or let's say they go, to kind of be, contradict myself here. Let's say they go Lauren Betts. Well, then you can bring in Dorka Juhas. That helps a little bit. Dorka can shoot from outside. That will help you a little bit. But I don't know. I just think they're a little too packed at forward right now, and at that post position, especially if you bring Masha back. I feel like they're pretty solidified at that spot. So that's why I'm leaning more towards going towards that wing in guard spot and position.
It's also like a matter of minutes, right? Like Fee in a playoff game is going to play 37 minutes.
Right.
She's played cover to cover in playoff games before, all 40. Smith is going to play 30 minutes. So you have 9 minutes left over. Like, is it really
right? Yeah.
Like, is the drop off from 9 minutes of Masha going to be that much different than 9 minutes of Betts, or 9 minutes of Dorka to 9 minutes of Betts? Whereas, I think the guard position, we've seen, Court has some games where you kind of like to bench her once in a while.
Right. Yeah.
I think T has some games that are pretty stinky as well. K-Mac, as Ghost mentions, is 48 years old, 33, but might as well be 48 in WNBA terms. There's just more of an option for an impact.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with what you were saying too before about K-Mac, that I really do think resting her every so often, or even playing her 15 minutes one game, I think that would help her tremendously. Yeah. Especially with, kind of not, I don't want to say she runs out of gas in the playoffs, but older players do run out of gas later in the season. It tests your endurance and it really tests you late in the year. And I think that would just be so beneficial for K-Mac to get that rest, kind of like what we see with Court. And to your point with Court and T, kind of them switching up. Let's say Court's not having a good game, you throw in T to that quote unquote starting spot. The same could be said for K-Mac. She has her off games. Then you could throw somebody else in there that could fill in behind her. Right now, Minnesota doesn't really have anybody to fill in behind her.
No.
That's something they need to, they had Dejanay, but they didn't really get a big sample size of Dejanay to be able to fill that spot. So they need to address that, whether it's free agency or the draft.
I think the other thing with K-Mac is there are some older players in both the NBA and WNBA that kind of understand how to feather the gas pedal so that they can make it to the end of a season. K-Mac, it is pedal to the floor, balls to the wall. She is 100% in every possession of every game. And if you do have a little bit to, back that up with, I think that could help, just not having her in a few games.
Right.
Ghost has been pretty active in the chat here. I just want to touch on a couple of them. Minnesota getting Fudd would, keep the Fudd and Dallas playing away. Also, if Dallas passes on her, does that mean Paige is coming home sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
there's drama to talk about if Dallas passes on Fudd. So I'm all for that.
It's a mind game for Cheryl. If she gets
Mm-hmm.
Fudd, that means that it's ultimately just has to happen that Paige is coming.
I also hope she didn't wear a Chicago Sky Letterman's jacket during the draft lottery. I hope there's at least like a picture of Angel Reese in the background of their war room, just to kind of like head and a nod of like, I might have been right on this one. Like,
yeah,
this second overall pick's pretty cool. Ghost also says Smith and her defensive player of the year. I will say I saw the trophy the day it was presented to Smith, and it does not say defensive player of the year on it. So until they update the trophy model, she's the defensive player. I read what's on the trophy. She's the defensive player of the year. I don't know what to tell you. Valkyries, I think, are going to be a ton of fun next year. Like, it's going to be, that team's I think they're gonna build on everything they did, and with an off season where they can go big game hunting, like I think almost every player in the league would want to go play in Valhalla.
I agree.
Mitch, we're at the 46-minute marks, but I do want to ask you, anything productive coming out of overseas? How, anyone popping over there that you've had your eye on a little bit?
I was just looking. I do a weekly thing at Canis Hoopus, an off-season update series. So each Monday that comes out. Just kind of looking over some of the stats. I mean, K-Mac is having a nice off-season overseas. So that's very K-Mac-ish of her to do that. She's always outstanding. Bridget Carlton's having a solid offseason as well. One player that is standing out, and she did last year too, is Jess Shepard. I mean, Jess Shepard's a walking double-double every night overseas. She's in both, Italy. Well, she's in Italy right now, but in their league, she's averaging just under 18 points. In EuroLeague play, she's got 15 and 9. Like, she's having a great offseason again. But one player that is well, two actually that have done well this offseason that have, I don't want to say surprised me, but it's been it's been nice to see them performing well. One being Masha. She's playing in Russia. She's averaging, and this is before, I'm looking at the story that I published last Monday. So we have this week yet that's not counted into here, but over 11 games, 12.3 points, 7.4 rebounds. I mean, she's having a nice offseason as well. But Dorky Uhas is actually playing really well. She's not only scoring, but she's doing well on the boards, which is something that Minnesota has needed her to do when she was over here. But she's averaging around 13 points and about 7 rebounds. So to me, that's a great sign. And that helps with, if Jess Shepard does leave, maybe you bring both of those players in, that being Masha and Dorka, to kind of fill in that spot or those spots, and kind of interchange those players, or switch them back and forth. But those are some kind of players that I'm looking at right now. Obviously, we have the players on Unrivaled, Courtney Williams, Alana Smith, and Natisha Heidemann that have continued to play, and it's not as, I don't want to say that the stats are maybe not as legit as off season, but it's a little different because they have such small sample sizes with their style of play and just how much they play in the game. So it's 3-on-3. Yeah. And it's a different game. I mean, the stats aren't, exactly the same as what it would be if they played overseas. But those players are obviously playing in the United States here, and they're playing down in Miami, so they continue to do well there. But yeah, overall it's kind of been a similar offseason to last year, I would say, with the exception of maybe Masha and Dorka. I admittedly did not pay attention to Masha last year because she wasn't on the Lynx roster. So I don't really know in comparison how well she's doing this year to last year, but those players are continuing to do well overseas, which is a great sign.
I hope we have Masha back. She was just such I think she was almost like hidden from fans, because being at like the practice scrums and doing the whole like beat reporter thing, she was always kind of funny. Like around like the state fair time, she was so upset that Natisha Heidemann got to touch a cow and she didn't. And it's like, then playoffs happen and you see she's dancing and like a really wholesome person. But I hope they keep her around. That's delightful.
Yeah.
Mitch, let's call it there, though. I do want to give you space. Anything you want to shout out? Where can people find you other than hitting the hardwood newsletters?
Yes, hitting the hardwood newsletters come out every Wednesday. If you want to sign up, you can follow us on social media, and we push those out every Wednesday. It's just kind of a recap of the last week. We have our podcasts on there. I usually throw my Lynx off-season update on there. And the best part yet, it's free, and it goes right to your email. So if you sign up, it's like I said, it's absolutely free. We just do it just to keep you guys informed. But yeah, you can keep an eye out on hitting the hardwood. You can follow me on social media. I'm on X, M_Hansen 13, HANSEN 13. Hansen is spelled with the EN the right way, not ON. I always say that as a joke.
My wife's entire family just shuddered.
But yeah, you can follow me on X. You can follow me on Blue Sky. Hansen 13, I believe I am on Blue Sky. You can kind of follow me everywhere, but yeah, feel free to check us out on Hitting the Hardwood. You get all of the Hitting the Hardwood goodness, that being all of our podcasts, Missing Wolves, Missing Lynx, Hitting the Hardwood, and Lynx Happy Hour. Get the the newsletter, as I just mentioned, and much more. But we have some bigger news here coming in the next month or two about Hitting the Hardwood, and some more stuff that we'll be providing you guys. So stay tuned for that.
Look at that teaser. This guy, professional
Businessman.
marketer extraordinaire.
Company
All right,
man.
I appreciate you. For anyone that jumped into the pod late here, you can always find it on YouTube and X as soon as I hit post. If you can wait until Monday morning and want something to listen in on a snowy drive into work, this does get posted at 7 a.m. following day after every live stream. You can find me, @DukeMN, anywhere, and the Missing Wolves podcast is kind of what been taking up a lot of my time right now, but Missing Lynx, if there's anything that breaks, like I do plan to have breaking news. If the CBA gets done, you'll probably see us knuckleheads right back up on here, but we do want to try and give Lynx fans off-season content that isn't just, a 15-second cutaway of Fee and a boot and at Unrivaled. So thanks everyone for tuning in. Mitch, appreciate you again, and we'll catch you all next time.